Good evening, and I want to thank everyone for joining us for this special presentation. We're calling it Strategies for Coping in 2020 because we could all use help with that. And also how to help our family members, our friends, and our children. We're going to talk about the mental health challenges that many of you or your family members have faced in the last 6 months related to COVID-19 and the resulting isolation and schedule changes and life changes. We have lots to cover, but we're going to encourage everyone watching to submit questions either through the question and answer on the Zoom or as a comment on Facebook Live. And I want to welcome our panelists. We have Dr. Heather Page of the Summit Counseling Center and Alethia Love, who is the head counselor at Dunwoody High School. And in the interest of full disclosure, I have known Miss Love for longer than I'm going to say because it will make us both feel very old, but she was my children's counselor both at Chestnut Elementary School and Dunwoody High School. So we have traveled a long road together. I'd love to give you each a few minutes to introduce yourselves. So Ms. Love, if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself.
First, I'd like to thank you, Mayor Deutsch, I love saying that, and the city of Dunwoody for the opportunity to participate in this panel this evening. It's great to also see Dr. Page here as well. I am very proud to represent Dunwoody High School under the amazing leadership of Ms. Priscilla Cole and the Wildcat family. Again, I'm Alethia Love, head counselor, and I've been working in the Dunwoody community for over 24 years. So Mayor Deutsch let the cat out the bag. I wasn't gonna say too much about years, but as I think about it, it's been a while. I was the counselor at Chestnut Charter for 10 years. And believe it or not, I've been at Dunwoody High School for over 13 years now. I love being a counselor. I love my job, and above anything, I am a servant leader. I am very blessed to be surrounded by the best counseling family in the entire world. I'm also a wife, a daughter, and mother of 2 girls. I have an 11th grader, and I also have a freshman in college. So I like to tell families, boy, I'm living through this with you, but we're going to make it through together. Thank you.
And Dr. Page, if you could tell us a little bit about yourself, please.
I'm sure. First, thank you so much for having me on the panel. I'm thrilled to be able to sit and have this discussion and provide people with information and resources. I am an associate staff psychologist at Summit Counseling Center, and I've been working there for about 2 years now, and I have been working at 2 schools in the Dunwoody community. So I am at Dunwoody High School, and I am also relatively recently started at Peachtree Charter Middle School, and both schools have welcomed me with open arms, and Ms. Love has been fabulous with sort of bringing me into the fold and introducing me to everyone. So it's been awesome. Let's see, I am married. I have 1 daughter, her name is Camille, and she's 4 years old. And we definitely have struggled as a family a little bit, but we're all in this together with COVID. So I speak from personal experience with some of the struggles and sort of how to cope with it. So I am more than happy to be here this evening.
Well, thank you both. And we are so blessed to have you both as part of our community. So we're going to start with some questions that have been submitted and that I have. So by its very nature, the pandemic has been really isolating. What are some healthy ways to handle that, for ourselves and for our children? What strategies do you recommend? And Dr. Page, would you like to go first?
Sure. I think that while COVID has been a huge challenge for most of us, what's been kind of nice about it, or at least for me, is just being able to slow down and not go all the time. And I've had so much time to spend with my husband and with my child. So for me, the isolating piece while, it has been a little bit of a struggle, it hasn't been as bad because I've gotten an opportunity to reconnect with people that I previously didn't have as much time to reconnect with. So just sort of reaching out to people, using technology, FaceTime, Zoom, phone calls, just having that opportunity to reach out to people in ways that you haven't been able to before. And also just kind of getting out of the house. And just because you have to isolate doesn't mean that you have to stay in the home. So finding ways to be creative and doing things outside of the home, getting out in nature, just sort of breathing the fresh air will help you with some of those feelings of isolation during this time.
Ms. Love, do you have anything to add?
I would say connecting and slowing down has been wonderful. And I think it's good for all of us to also realize that we're not in control. So the isolation has maybe had us be in the house a little bit, but it's teaching us to do things differently and not really know what to predict from day to day. I think one of the best things that our family has done is to exercise together. The first few months of the pandemic, we decided to do exercise time, and we would have a time and it would be set, and we would play music and entertain each other that way. So I think it has brought families closer together and slowed us down. But I think it's so important, if I don't say anything else today, is to get outside and get some sunlight and take care of yourself so you can take care of others.
That's a really good advice. And you mentioned uncertainty, and even without COVID, there's so much pressure on our children, on ourselves. How much anxiety, or how many people do you see struggling with anxiety? And is some anxiety helpful? And when do you know that it's serious enough? When does someone know that it's serious enough to either get help for themselves or for a family member?
I'm going to jump in first a little bit because I'm going to let the expert, Dr. Page, really talk about that. She and I talk about anxiety a lot, even before the pandemic. So I will say she's a great expert on that. But I would like to say that we are not going through this alone. This is a global issue. So I try to remind families and students when they're getting anxiety, worried about college applications, everyone is going through this. So even though it brings us anxiety, we all have to figure out a way to address this issue. It's not isolated in one place. So that brings me comfort when I tell other people that, and I hope it brings them comfort that we don't have to explain this is what's happening at Dunwoody High School, because it's happening all over the place. So the colleges have been really good at accommodating and putting different things in place so that we can help our students to still achieve their goals. So those are some of my initial thoughts about anxiety. I think it's important to say that we're not in this alone.
It's true. And Dr. Page, do you want to take on the therapist angle of this question, perhaps?
So the first question, how prevalent is anxiety? It's incredibly prevalent. So for me, in my practice, the majority of kids that I see at both Peachtree Charter Middle School and Dunwoody High School, they're coming to me for anxiety. Within like a 12-month prevalent period, 24.9% of individuals will have some sort of anxiety. Most people will experience some sort of anxiety in their lives. And there's a variety of different kinds. So it could be like generalized anxiety, which is kind of being anxious and nervous and worrying all the time without having any real reprieve. It could be social anxiety, which lots of teens experience. So there's a variety of different types of anxiety disorders, and most people will experience some type of level of anxiety during their lives, and most people will experience at least what would meet criteria for an anxiety disorder at some point in their lives. And even with teens, it's pretty high across the board. Kids as young as 6 years old can be diagnosed with anxiety. So it's a pretty persistent, pretty prevalent disorder. And yes, some level of anxiety is helpful, right? Because if you don't have some level of anxiety, you won't be prepared for certain things. So a certain level of anxiety helps you prepare for a presentation or prepare for a test. And if you're just kind of lax about everything, you're not hyper vigilant about things that you should be. But where the problem comes in at is when your anxiety is so debilitating, it keeps you from living a life worth living. So I think that sort of being mindful of, okay, is this a normal level of anxiety, or am I nervous all the time? Am I nervous when there's not really a threat that I should be nervous about? Is kind of things you can ask yourself to assess whether or not you're at a level or whether it's concerning. And I did jot down a couple of things. So in terms of how do you know when you should seek professional help, if you kind of always have that feeling of being on edge. So if it's not kind of a here and there kind of thing, if it's not like the result of, you have a doctor's appointment or a test coming up, if you're kind of always in that space, then that might be a sign that you should seek professional help. Constantly worrying about things in the future, in the past, to the point that you can't live in the present is a telltale sign that you should probably seek professional help. Difficulty concentrating, issues with sleep, constantly being nervous, just an uncomfortable amount of hypervigilance, overthinking or ruminating about things over and over and over again are kind of signs that you should seek some sort of professional help. And I also think it's important to note that anxiety doesn't always show up in the way that we think. So particularly for kids, they might report stomach ache, I don't feel good. And those physiological signs are also signs of anxiety that should be attended to, and can also let you know that your child or you might be struggling with anxiety yourself.
That's really helpful advice. So if someone feels like it's sort of a passing anxiety, but they can't quite shake it, do you have any specific strategies you might recommend that they can just try at home, for example? Do you have any thoughts about that?
Sure. So what I tell a lot of my clients is whenever you're feeling nervous or anxious, do things that sort of bring you peace of mind. So a really simple activity that you can do is what we call guided imagery. So it's kind of like it's a fancy word for going to a happy place. So thinking about a time where you were just at peace and you were really relaxed, and describing that setting in as much detail as possible. So what was the temperature like? What was your mood like? Who was there? What kind of food was present? And just really try to take yourself there, even though you're not there physically in your mind, will usually help you calm down. Also just deep breathing, and people kind of roll their eyes when you say deep breathing because it's kind of that thing that you always get. But deep breathing is absolutely helpful. The key is you have to do it long enough. So people will do like a couple inhales and exhales and oh, that didn't work. Well, it's not going to work after 2 or 3. If you do it for 8 to 10 minutes of really good inhaling and exhaling, it should help at least bring that anxiety down a little bit. Just going for a walk. So I think anxiety is very specific in the sense that what works for one person might not work for someone else. So just sort of trying lots of different things out to kind of see what resonates with you. Listening to music, reading a book, a variety of things might make you feel a little bit better when you're just feeling really tense in the moment.
At the school level, if I could just add to that, Mayor Deutsch, I'm sorry.
Absolutely. Please, Ms. Love.
At the school level, sometimes students will come to us because they are having anxiety in the classroom. And something that I have found that really works is to have a change of environment. So they may come into my office and I may say, you know what, let's get up, as Dr. Page said, and let's go walk. So we may walk down the hall. We may even go outside. You'd be surprised at how sunshine really makes a difference. So just changing that environment and getting them stuck in where they are at that moment and taking them somewhere else really, really helps. And I think it's very, very important to breathe. But I've also found that some students, when they count from 100 down, or counting forward, that will help. And like Dr. Page said, you have to find what works for you, but there are just some things that maybe help them a little bit to calm down a little bit. And those are some things that we try immediately at the school. And we also have water in our office, so we offer students water. Sometimes that helps because they're not hydrated. And sometimes a phone call home to hear a comforting voice from a parent is also
Something else that
No, go ahead. No, please go ahead.
something else that I tell my students to think about is whatever's making you anxious or stressed out in the moment, ask yourself three questions. Is this particular thing going to matter in 5 days? Is it going to matter in 5 weeks? Is it going to matter in 5 years? And that kind of helps them get a little bit of perspective. And most of the time, well, almost all of the time, the answers to those questions are no. And it kind of helps them say, okay, in this moment, I'm struggling, but this is just a moment and this is not forever. And I'm not going to feel this way forever. And there's a lot of comfort in that.
I think that also brings us comfort in this COVID world that we're living in. Mm-hmm. This is not a moment that will be here forever. I heard someone say this and it really stayed with me. You know, we've gone through longer periods of difficult times in our nation, maybe not this generation, but our nation has gone through things for years. And so we've come through it stronger and better, and we come up with things to make us move forward to be better. And so I'm glad you really said that, Dr. Page, because this is just a moment in time. And for us, it seems like forever. It really does. Yeah. But we will get past this and we will be stronger.
So Dr. Page, you may have just answered the question that I just thought of, but when you're the parent on the other, or both of you, when you're the parent on the other end of a phone call, like the one I might have gotten this afternoon from a college student who might or may not have been quite ready for her exam this afternoon. What is your best advice for the people on the other end of the phone to say? Whichever one of you would like to go first.
For me, what was helpful for me when I was in college, or just when I'm stressed out about something, and what's helpful for me with dealing with my clients is validating that uncertainty and validating that anxiety and saying, you know, hey, I know that, you know, you're really stressed out and you should be stressed out, and it's understandable and it's difficult, and you can do hard things and you've done hard things in the past, and sort of pointing them back to, you know, past experiences that they've struggled in and how they were able to overcome that. Because I think when we're in the moment, when you're in the darkness, you can't really see the light, as they say. So I think just sort of calling that out and pointing out to them that, hey, you've been able to overcome bigger things, and you'll be able to overcome this is a small thing that I usually kind of throw out there.
I think something that also works is sometimes when we have anxiety, we're stuck. We just cannot move. And so I tell my students this, and I did this recently, even with a student. If you stay stuck and you don't do anything, you don't turn in that assignment, you don't communicate with the teacher, you've made no progress, and that's not helpful. You really made the situation worse. So something is better than nothing. So start by putting one foot in front of the other and start. That's the hardest part, is starting. And so if we can get to that point, we can see, okay, if I can do step one, then I may be able to go on and do step two. So that's something that I often tell students, to think of it from that perspective. If you don't take the test, if you don't do anything, you're going to make a 0. But if you attempt to get started, you're right on your way.
Yeah, that's a good point. And what I also do with clients is write down, okay, what's the goal? Like, what are we trying to get to? And then we break it down into every possible step that we can think of. And then we set like little goals. Okay, you're going to get this done, so you're going to get this done by the end of the week. So I think when we're thinking about like things that really make us anxious, really breaking it down into individual steps and kind of takes some of the edge off and kind of makes you de-stress a little bit.
Dr. Page and Ms. Love, those are fantastic answers. And I know I'm finding them helpful, and I'm going to imagine all the other people listening are as well. Dr. Page, can you tell us more about your work at the high school and at the middle school, and how it might be working in other schools already?
So prior to COVID, physically, I was in Dunwoody High School and Peachtree Charter Middle School. I was at Peachtree Charter Middle School 1 day a week, and I was at Dunwoody High School twice a week, Mondays and Fridays. And basically how it was set up prior was I would get referrals directly from the counselors, and they would, because they're like the right hand people working with the youth, and they would say, you know, hey, this kid is interested, or I think that this kid would benefit from therapy. They would talk to parents and get initial paperwork completed, and it was a pretty streamlined process. Then I would contact them. We would get them in for intakes, do the phone interview with the parents to kind of get more information about what the presenting concerns are. And we would meet at a school, which is a huge help because lots of families have difficulty with just transportation. So it was helpful to be able to be on campus and be able to pull kids out of classes that they were doing well in, or either their elective courses. And lots of them found comfort in having their therapist right there on site in the event that they were having a bad day or something happened. And it was a very similar model at Peachtree Charter Middle School. With COVID, that's changed a little bit. So right now I am doing telehealth with a couple of students at Dunwoody High School and plan to continue that this school year and with the kids at Peachtree Charter Middle School. And we currently are using Zoom for health professionals. So it's a secure version of Zoom where there's a waiting room. So there aren't any concerns about people popping in that aren't supposed to be there. So that's kind of what we're doing now. And so far it's been working fabulously.
I'm very impressed. So Ms. Love, so you're the head counselor in a virtual world. So how are you going about and how are your other counselors going about your responsibilities? And what does that look like now?
Well, we have done a lot of things a lot of creative things to support our students. And I think some of the things we're doing, we're going to continue to do after. So I think it's been great to help us think outside the box. First, I want to acknowledge the counselors on our team. There are 6 of us. And so our school enrollment is around a little bit under 2,300. So we've grown, and so we have 6 counselors. We have a 9th grade counselor, Miss Handy, and she has done a wonderful job joining our team this year. Mr. Rue is our counselor with the last names A through D in grades 10 through 12. Ms. Carr is our counselor for 10 through 12 with the letters E through I, and Mr. Hughes is our counselor with the letters J through M, 10 through 11. Mr. Ingram works with students N through S, and I am also with 10 through 12 for T through Z. So we have divided ourselves up and we want to make sure that all of our students know who their counselor is. So that's been very important. We put that out on social media. We put it on our website. We've created our own counseling website so that students know how to find us. We've also made sure that the teachers know who we are. So if a student needs us, they can direct them directly to us. But we also have an additional student support service personnel that support our school. Mr. Gardner is our school social worker. He's there to help consult and connect with us. Before COVID and definitely now, he provides a lot of resources for our families. And we also have Miss Glean. She is our school psychologist. And I want to make sure that I say our entire team's name because we work together as a family. And Miss Glean is also there to support our families during this time. So if you really want to know how we're bridging the gap, we have a wonderful school website. So I've sent that information to the city of Dunwoody. So I hope that you can post that and make it visible so that families can go directly to our website, but we're also promoting it weekly in our e-blast that we send out to our families. We have Remind, and Remind has been a great way for the class for all of our classes to have a way that we can communicate directly with them through text. I also want to make known is that if we're not hearing from our students or if our teacher is worried, we're going to reach out to you. We're here if you want to reach out to us, but we're also reaching out to our families. And I think that's so important. And Dr. Page, this may be a good segue for us to talk about how we've gotten together this support team. And Dr. Page is definitely part of our support team. And we've created a needs assessment. We're not there. I can walk down the hall and tell you how the kids are doing, okay? But I don't see their faces every day. So we created a needs assessment, and I also sent that link to the city of Dunwoody, but we also have it available on our website and our information that tells us how our families are doing. 5 questions. So I hope that you can help us promote that as well through this venue. And Dr. Page, if there's anything to that you want to add, but we're hoping that that data and that information can help us. There you go. There it is, right
there. It is.
That can help us to find out how we can best serve our students. So Dr. Page and our school psychologists, our school social worker, our counselors, our great counseling team, we said, we can come up with things we think are wrong, but how will we know? And unless we ask our families. So that's exactly what we did. And Dr. Page, I'd love for you to chime in on some of that as well. Anything you want to add?
Yeah, sure. Just to go back a little bit to talk about sort of what the referral process is like now this year. We just recently implemented sort of a referral link. So if you go to our Summit Counseling website, you can fill out the form on our website and just submit that, and then someone from our front office will reach out to you about next steps and give you paperwork. So that's always nice. And yes, like Ms. Love said, I thought that it was a fabulous idea with the needs assessment, because yes, when we're interacting with kids, we have a good idea of kind of what they're struggling with, but you never can be 100% sure. So reaching out to families and asking, hey, what do you need? How can we help better serve you? That's what we're here for. That's kind of what the needs assessment is all about. So I'm hoping that we get great turnaround. I hope that we get great input and feedback on that. And I'm looking forward to getting those results and implementing that into my practice.
That's all. Y'all are doing really great work, and I'm excited to learn about it all.
I want to add one more thing, Mayor Deutsch, if that's okay. We also have resources on our website. So the link to the website you all also have, but very clearly on the counseling website, you can see resources for mental health. You need food, Summit Counseling Center information is there as well. We want our families to be able to find out how to quickly access information. So there's a link that says link/DHS counselors. It takes you to our social media outlets that we have on Twitter. And Ms. Love doesn't do Twitter, but Ms. Love is doing Twitter now, because I want to make sure we're able to reach out and it gives you information about our website. So I hope everyone will take a picture of those websites and use them.
And we can print those links we can link those in the comments on the Facebook Live as well. So those are really great resources. If for us, are there certain signs that we should be looking for to see if a friend, a child, a family member is in trouble, struggling more than we would like them to, and might need more than just a hug from a family member, for example?
Okay, I'll jump in on that one.
Okay.
So I think that is another one of those things that is a little bit subjective. I think looking at the person, if you know them, are they behaving in a way that's atypical of them? Are they doing things that are unusual? That might be a sign that, hey, something, I should check in with this person. But from research and working with folks, we have some idea, the teens at least, whenever there might be something going on. And some of those signs might be just sort of being really irritable, above and beyond what would be expected. Acting out, having behavior problems when they weren't really having those issues before. Seeming really frustrated and angry all the time. Avoiding school or poor school performance when that was an issue in the past. Any kind of use of alcohol or substance abuse might be an indicator that they're trying to cope with something in an unhealthy way. Any kind of unexplained body aches or pains, like I said earlier, anxiety shows up physically, like in a physiological way, a lot of the times, particularly with kids and youth. Just excessive worry or sadness, just asking lots of questions that might, suggest that they're worried about a lot of different things. unhealthy eating behaviors, sleeping too much or not getting enough sleep are telltale signs that something else might be going on.
I want to add to that a little bit as a mother of an 11th grader, and she'll love me for saying this, it's okay. She's in her room all the time. So I have to say, you know, is it weird that she's in her room a lot? Probably not, you know, so knowing your child, I was on a mental health call listening in, and that was something that came up with when you just described my teenager, you know, they're irritable all the time. So just knowing your child and knowing the difference. But if you're concerned, don't sit on it. If you're wondering, talk to a professional, call your pediatrician. And if it's something that's really, really extreme, and I want to stress this because we're not face to face and we don't see our students where they have that next day to come in and say, Miss Love or Mr. Rue or whoever their counselor is, I'm worried about this. Call 911 if you feel that there is something really extreme going on, to make sure you're taking care of your children and your family. And I think communication is something that we really have to do. Have a way that you're communicating when things aren't so wrong, so that if something is going on, you have that dialogue already started.
That is really helpful and really good advice, and keeping an eye on our children and keeping an open dialogue, I think is really important right now, because for a lot of our children, we're the only adults they're seeing right now. So, you know, we don't necessarily know when we're all coming back to school in person, but as we approach that, are there things we should be doing to prepare our children socially and emotionally for that next step?
I'll just add a few things to that. We don't know, and that's the part that makes us uncomfortable. I think being honest with our students as we prepare for day to day is to let them know, sweetie, I don't know, and this is not fun. I think this is not the best situation. I'm just going to be honest. You know, I don't want to make you think that, ooh, this is just wonderful. It's not great. So having those conversations with your students to be realistic with them and let them know, I don't know what's going on, but what we can do is talk about how you're feeling. There are some kids that are really uncomfortable with coming back to school. So I know that DeKalb County is really looking at when it's going to be the best time to come back, and we don't know that answer yet. But having these conversations, does your child feel comfortable going back? Do you feel what your anxiety or what your concerns are? Discuss those with your children so that when it's time to make those decisions, you've already started the communication. It is very weird to not know when we're going to go back. And I know we thought we'd have some of these answers when we, as we're having board meetings and DeKalb County is making decisions. That I am way below on knowing what's going to happen. But what I can control is what's going on in my household and having the conversations with my family. So I think that's the first thing I would say, is to talk about how they feel about it and ways that they can communicate with their friends and stay in touch and be safe.
Yeah. Go ahead, Dr. Page.
Fabulous answer, Ms. Love.
Okay,
I have very much more to add to that. But yeah, just continuing to keep like the open dialogue, letting your kids know that that you are a safe person that they can discuss these things with, providing a safe space to discuss these issues, and just asking them, what do you need to feel safe? What do you need to feel good about kind of where you are right now? Do they need to be in therapy? Or are they thinking, okay, I need somebody to talk to, I need skills, and then seeking out, you know, resources in the community, such as Summit Counseling, if that's what they need. Kind of what we're going to be doing in schools this year, like what we've done in previous years, is we have groups. And one of our groups might be, you know, how to cope with sort of the isolation, how to deal with anxiety around COVID. And what's nice about groups is, you know, the kids are getting the emotional piece where they're getting skills to deal with their emotional challenges, but they also have a group so that's going to provide them with that social support piece. They're going to have their peers to talk to about what they're struggling with. So I think that in and of itself is huge for helping them sort of acclimate back to school and kind of what that's going to be like.
That's a great resource. And I know that for my young adult children, one of the challenges the last 6 months has been the varying activities that their friends are participating in. You know, you have people that are totally staying home. You have people that are maybe living their lives like there's no COVID, and a lot of people in between. And so I imagine that as we approach in-person school, there'll be more discussion around that in households across DeKalb County, including Dunwoody. So I have been using for the last few months in Dunwoody the phrase space and grace. That we have to approach this very challenging time full of a lot of uncertainties and give everyone the space and grace they need to navigate it the best that we can. I tend to give people the benefit of the doubt, and I think everyone is trying to do the right thing and is doing the best they can. But how do we, does that translate to mental health? You know, how do we teach tolerance perhaps, or acceptance? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
I think kind of what we've talked about a lot so far is just sort of that we're all doing the best that we can. Like there's no instruction manual. We don't know kind of how to deal with this. This is a very unique situation. And I've never experienced anything like this in my lifetime. And many of our youth, probably all of our youth, haven't either. So I think just really call into the fact that this is an unprecedented situation. We're all doing the best that we can. I love the phrase about what you said, space and grace. I think that's key. As for adults, practicing modeling and using healthy coping skills for our youth. So getting out there and exercising, getting out there and being positive, eating well, having good sleep hygiene, taking it one day at a time. We never know from one day to the next what's going to happen with this thing. So sort of being flexible, taking in information from news sources, but also knowing when it's a little bit too much for you and when you need to sort of unplug. Leaning on others for support and not being afraid to show that vulnerability, asking for help, saying, hey, I'm not doing well. I just need somebody to talk to about this. And then also huge is to sort of avoid comparing yourself to others. So not really worrying about so much what other people are doing. They might be out and about, but that doesn't work for our family. So talking about why that is. So I think just having open dialogue around all these issues is going to be helpful.
And if you are a family that is comfortable going out and doing things, be respectful of those who have a different view. I think respect is something that we really have to talk about during these times. People are thinking different. I know even some of my closest friends, their perspective on some of this is different than mine. But at the end of the day, they're still my friend. I still respect them. So we can love each other and disagree and be respectful. So if I know in my household we aren't going out and doing things and being around a lot of people, but your family is, respect me if I say no thank you. Or it's okay if someone invites you, just be comfortable in what works for you and your family and being respectful of each other. I think is very important. And I don't think I could have said it better, space and grace. We're all different. We all have different views. And it's okay. It really is. So respecting each other.
I love that answer because I think that a lot of us have gotten very rigid in our thinking, whether we mean to or not, and then it makes everything else harder, I think. So I think, and we have to translate that to our children, that it's okay if other people are making choices that we might not make. We don't have to understand them. We just have to respect them. And if we can help our kids, which is really hard in the era of social media, to understand that it's okay for us all to be making different choices, it will probably help reduce their anxiety, I would imagine.
Absolutely.
And even with my own children, I have a mother who's I won't tell her age because I'll get in trouble for that, but she's up in age, and so I have to make sure that I'm continuing to have a conversation with my children. We can't be around her right now, and if we see her, it's going to be from a distance. We had a drive-by for Mother's Day, and it was okay. That's what our family decided to do. Hold up a sign and say Happy Mother's Day in our cars. So people are doing different things, but us modeling the behavior so that our children can do it when they're not with us, I think is very important.
Yeah, that's all really good advice. So from our children, are there things you think that we can learn from them during this time? Have you picked up anything from your children or from the students that you think could benefit us all? I don't know who wants to go first.
There are things that our children think about and are concerned about that we may not have even thought about. Now we're living in this virtual world, and I was listening to something on television. It made me really think about it differently. Being on camera is sometimes intimidating for some of our students. So I have learned that, I may be comfortable or not showing my face on camera, but there may be a student that doesn't want to show their face. So I've learned that we have to listen to them. We may have a rigid rule that everyone has to show their face and unmute, but there are some people who are uncomfortable with it. So giving them a way to communicate that feeling of being uncomfortable. I've learned that from our students that sometimes we have to think a little different and ask them questions. And what they say may surprise us and may not be what we're thinking. So I've learned a lot just by listening to the students and what their concerns are. And so as parents and educators, we may think we have it all figured out, but they may have a different perspective.
Yeah.
Similarly, I think that just sort of being flexible, and I think that youth have a good way just kind of going with the flow. And as parents and as adults, it's kind of like we cringe at that sometimes, and we like structure and things to be in place and in order. But I think now more than ever, nothing really makes sense and everything is kind of up in the air. And I think being able to roll with the punches is something that we should learn from youth. And I think that would help us out immensely.
Yeah, I think pivot is going to be one of the words of 2020 that lots of us will want to see retired, but we've all been doing a lot of pivoting, and I think the kids may be doing it more gracefully than the adults in a lot of situations. So can you talk to me a little bit about structure and whether or not we as parents should want our kids to get dressed before they should have clothes on when they come to virtual classes. But do you think it matters if they're still in their pajamas, for example, when they tune in to a virtual class? Or an example from my own life is if they're sitting on their bed for their virtual class rather than at the desk. How do you pick your battles when it comes to these kind of issues?
I'll go first if that's okay. For me, I think that picking your battles is major, and I feel like we're all in a major battle together right now.
Mm-hmm.
So little things like, kind of what you wear, as long as it's appropriate, I think is something that we can kind of let go a little bit. I think that youth right now feel like they're not in control of a lot. So I think as many opportunities that we can give them to feel like they're in control of something, even if it is what kind of pajamas you're going to wear for class today. I think that is amazing. And I think that's a nice little olive branch to extend to them to kind of give them a little bit of autonomy over their lives right now. So I am all about being flexible when it comes to that kind of thing. And if they can get their work done in their room, on their bed, then by all means do it. But if that's not working for them, then of course that just doesn't work. So just sort of knowing your child and knowing what you can kind of let go of and what you need to be really firm on is going to be important.
From a school perspective, I do think with our classrooms, some of our classes have 30 students online. So we do have to put some things in place But we can choose what we put in place, as Dr. Page said. You know, we may want to say we have 5 rules, but maybe we're just going to have 3. But there are things that we have to put in place. I do think, even for myself, going to work, as I say, I walk down the steps, I'm at work, and I walk back upstairs, I'm back home. I think I have to put some things in place so that I can have balance for myself, and having a certain time to eat breakfast before I start class, because I may not have another break to do it. I think the CAB has done a fabulous job of putting some structures in place throughout the virtual learning day to say, okay, this is the time that students from 8 to 8:30 can eat breakfast, and this is the time they can set up their computers and their technology to get ready for class. I do think for some students, having that change of environment to go from class to their bedroom for some is really good, and it helps them get going in their day. So, but can we have a grace day? You know, we've done it for 4 days. I'm just not going to fuss about it today. But once they get in that routine and they see what works for them, especially high school students, I think that they will also put that in place. I would say for my 11th grader, she knows that she needs to come down and sit at a desk, and she loves having the rolling chair, and that helps her to get going. And by the time she gets to her 4th class, she may want to move the laptop and go somewhere else, but she's recognizing what works for her. I do think having some things for structure is important, but we have to pick our battles.
And what about, should families prioritize some fun in all this, maybe differently than they would be if the kids were getting up every morning and getting on the school bus and going to school? Should we be looking at downtime perhaps a little differently?
Yeah, so one thing to think about is screen time. So right now, students are utilizing screen time more than ever because they're doing virtual learning. So I think being really intentional about finding ways to interact and have fun that does not involve screen time is going to be huge. I'm sort of taking a break, taking time to unplug, blocking off scheduled time for family, doing games. Over COVID, my family we played more games than we ever have. So I think just sort of being creative about that, going on hikes, and really being intentional about, okay, on Fridays we do this, on Saturdays we do this, and sticking to that. I think that piece is something that is going to help people just cope with this immensely.
Mm-hmm. I think that's great, Dr. Page. I think when school is out, we need to get up and move. I know sometimes when I'm at work here at home and I'm sitting for a long time, I feel like when I walk, I have a little strain there, you know, my knees are hurting. Maybe it's old age, I don't know. But I think you have to get up and move a little bit, especially between classes. And at the end of the day, yes, okay, we're done for the day. Now we can have dessert first, or we can have breakfast for dinner. Let's all just walk outside and take a walk and doing something different. I think that's very important to find balance, because after school, a lot of our students are doing some fun activities when school ends. And so some of that they're not able to do right now. So I do think letting them have a little fun is great. We have to have balance in our lives. Balance is important in everything that we do.
So what do you recommend? This is mostly probably an adult, but kids too, question, when someone is just having a down day and they can't fake it, you know, they can't smile and say everything's great. And it might not even be a whole day. It can just be a series of moments. They feel weepy, overwhelmed perhaps, but it's not a feeling that they have all the time. For grown-ups, for those of us that are the adults in the room, allegedly, what do you suggest?
Pretty much what I tell youth. Therapeutically, we call it behavioral activation, which is just a fancy word for doing something that you enjoy doing. So people are always like, well, if you're like down and you're depressed, you don't feel like doing something fun. That's when you should do it. It's like if you wait to feel great about kind of what's going on in the world, or just great about that particular moment, then you're never going to do it. So just picking it up and doing the thing that you don't enjoy doing, that you enjoy doing. And I promise you will start to feel better after doing it for a while. So just saying, okay, I'm not having a great moment. What would I be doing if I was feeling awesome? I would be reading, or I would be going for a walk, or I would be talking to friends. Do that thing.
And I would add to that, sometimes when we're not feeling our best, and it may just be for that day, like you said, Mayor Deutsch, I would say one thing that I even find myself doing is I may be in a dark room. I may be in a dark space. Sometimes just opening the curtains can make a big difference in how you feel. I said this earlier, but sunlight really does make a difference. So if you can't get up and leave out of your room, at least open the curtains and grab something to drink, and that can kind of help you get going a little bit. I think that's important.
So I have a question, and it may seem like a silly one, but do tears have psychological benefits? Like, if you feel like you need a good cry, is there a benefit of having that good cry, of watching a sad movie or reading a sad book to get to the good cry?
Oh, absolutely. It's very therapeutic to cry, just to kind of get it out. So crying is like just sort of that release. And sometimes that's exactly what you need. So there's not anything wrong with that. And I also think that we should normalize having bad days. Some days you're just going to have a bad day, and that's okay. And, you know, it's healthy to have a range of emotions, and no one's happy all the time. And it's okay to be sad sometimes. But yeah, absolutely. Crying it out there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And it is extremely therapeutic at times.
That's good. Just asking for a friend. So with young children, Dr. Page, with children your daughter's age and little kids, how do you have a conversation about why they can't go to the playground anymore? Or, you know, why they can't have 7 friends for the birthday party? How do you do that?
Well, for me, my child, we just sort of had a discussion about germs, and we've talked about in a very age appropriate way, kind of what's going on in the world, and how, you know, they get to having fun and they just sort of forget about touching each other. They want to hug each other. So to sort of help her out with that, we're just going to kind of keep our distance a little bit. And she was able to understand that, but also talking to her about, hey, well, what are other ways other than meeting in person can we connect with friends? So we have done lots of Zoom and FaceTime. We've driven by friends' houses, and she like painted a picture, and she was able to kind of hold it up to the window so that her friends could see what she's done for them. So just being really creative about ways that you can connect without being at risk or putting others at risk, I think, is kind of how we have that discussion and how we help them feel better about not being able to see their friends. And then also just kind of normalizing it. Yeah, it does kind of stink that you can't have all of your friends at your birthday party. But maybe next year you will be able to. But what are other things that we can come up with that is going to make you feel good about this particular birthday that doesn't involve having your friends here physically?
Mm-hmm. That's really good advice. And I know that I've said on social media multiple times in different posts that parenting is really hard right now. It's really hard. It's hard all the time, but I think it's particularly challenging right now. So how does someone find joy in the moment or remain in the moment when there's so much swirling around that's out of our control? Do you have strategies for that?
Turn off the TV.
That's really good advice. Disconnecting.
Disconnect. You got to disconnect. You know, we have our phones with us all of the time. We're walking with them all of the time. It's okay to put it down, turn on a great family movie and watch it and disconnect. I would say that's so important right now, just to get away from all of it.
Yeah, I think it's almost critical to put it in a drawer and forget about it for a while. And it's also important, I think, to acknowledge that we can be joyful. It's okay to be happy, even when others are struggling, that this is an unusual time, but it's still our time, right? you know, we're still having birthdays and we're still having Mother's Day. It all looks a little different. This weekend is Rosh Hashanah, which is the Jewish New Year. And so that is, you know, I think it's just different, but we still are, we should still encourage our children to be joyful and happy through all this, correct?
And I think sometimes we also forget the things that make us happy. And so writing it down and having it in a good place. Okay, what are my favorite songs? So when I'm feeling that way, I don't have to think hard. Oh, I really like that song. Let me turn that song on. I really like this movie, or I really like this activity, or I really like this book, so that you can remember and you can go to that list and look at it and say, okay, there are things that really make me happy that I can do even in this situation. I think recalling those and having them so that we can find them when we need them is really important.
So former State Senator Millar put a comment up about the history of the Summit Partnership and how it's meant to be a pilot and perhaps expand in the schools. And also just in general, what can our community do to support students and the schools and Summit right now?
Trying to think, what can the community, well, that's a good question. Because I feel like we're like kind of here to support you all. So I'm trying to think of ways that you all can.
Well, and while you're thinking, I want to add that Summit Counseling Center is housed at Dunwoody Methodist Church. And also you provide services to the general community, right? People can come and access services through the there's information's on the website that we shared earlier. And so, but you know, Ms. Love, is there a need for resources right now? Is anything the community can rally around?
Our new superintendent in the board meeting, even on Monday, mentioned this, that we can't do this alone. It's meaning pretending that we can. And if you go to the front page of the district's website, there is a banner there that says, if you can help, let us know how. Reach out to us and we will respond to you and let you know how we can use your service to help us. So I think taking her up on that offer, I think is very important. I know that as the year ended, you know, our PTSO, we're coming up with creative ways to support the faculty and staff and our students. And we had a wonderful parade to say goodbye to our seniors towards the end of the year. And you know what the community did in the city of Dunwoody, and I think you all did a great job. You turned on the lights for the seniors so that when they were driving around the neighborhood during a certain period of time, that light said, we are here, we support you. So continuing to do things like that, just to let us know that you support us is very important during this time. I had a parent that sent an email to me and said, you know what, I appreciate all of the communication that you're giving us because I feel like I'm still in tune with what's going on. And it really made me feel good. You know, maybe I'm doing something right. So I know that our principal, Ms. Cole, would love to have support. So reach out to us, let us know what you can do, and I'm sure we can find a way to use it, reaching out and staying in touch.
That's really good advice. So we're going to wrap up now, but do either of you have any closing thoughts?
I actually thought of an answer for your question.
Oh, great. Go ahead.
I don't know what to think of this, but we have a variety of different events throughout the year. We have a golf tournament that's coming up. I believe it's in November, but you can go to our website and see. And that's where we have lots of fundraising. So we have lots of fundraising events. Also, if you have the means and are willing to donate, we are always taking donations. Lots of our students or lots of our clients have sessions that are either free or at a reduced rate, and we're able to do that due to the kindness of the community and the amount of money that we raise throughout the year. So donations are huge for us, and it helps us be able to serve those who are in need. So if you're able to provide that, that would be amazing.
That's great information. Ms. Love, do you have any thoughts?
I just want to give this as my closing remark.
Okay.
We are still a Dunwoody family. This is a Dunwoody community, and I've worked in this community for a very long time, and I feel that connected energy that we have. So we're still that. We are still here to help. We are still here to serve. Our doors are wide open in a different way, but we are still here. And so at the end of the day, we are a Wildcat family. Once a Wildcat, always a Wildcat. Just know that we're here. You may not see us every day, but we are here. Reach out if you need us. And if we don't hear from you, we're reaching out to you. I think that's very important. And if you haven't completed the needs assessment as a Dunwoody High School family, please do that so that we know how to serve you and we can create groups so that we can help support our families.
Dr. Page, do you have anything to add?
Sure. Just to sort of echo off of Ms. Love a little bit, we are here and we're all in this together, and this is a hard, unprecedented time, but we have been in hard times before. And like those times we've gotten through, we'll be able to get through this together as a family, and Summit is here to provide you guys with support. We have tons of fabulous therapists. We have a website that has blogs with information about a variety of different topics, and a lot of them are about COVID in particular. So please go there and get as much help as you need.
And I just want to thank you both so much. This has been so enlightening, and everyone in the listening audience doesn't probably know this. A few of my friends do, that Ms. Love spent a lot of years holding my hand as a parent, getting me through Chestnut with 3 children over many years, and then seeing me again at Dunwoody High School with several of my children. So it's like having an old friend, not old. We are not old. Having a good friend, give you advice. It is true. We are a connected community. I have worked hard to remind people to do do good for each other as we take care of ourselves and our families. And thank you both so much again for joining us. And I look forward to meeting you in person, Dr. Page, and seeing you soon in person, Ms. Love, when it is safe. So please, everyone, take care, and we will have another chat in the next month or two about another subject that's interesting to our community. But thank you all for watching, and have a good night.
Thank you so much for
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.